What's up everyone, it's Wolfgang back with another Dorkfish review, and today we are reviewing the VCToys 112 Extreme Suit Arkham Origins Batman. Man, that's a mouthful. Alright, so I know you may be asking yourself, Wolfgang, I played this game, but I don't remember this character, or the suit I should say. And I would tell you that's because you didn't have the DLC. So the DLC for Batman Arkham Origins was a game called A Cold, Cold Heart. That was a retelling of the backstory of Victor Freeze, or Mr. Freeze, depending on how you know him. And that was based on the Batman the Animated Series Academy Award winning episode Heart of Ice. Just a small backstory on Victor Freeze before we get into the figure. Victor Freeze was a character made for the Adam West TV show in the 60s, had 3 different actors who played him in 3 different appearances, and while he was on and off again in the comics, would not become a main player in the Batman franchise until the Batman the Animated Series, in which that particular story made that character very, very famous, a household name amongst Batman fans, if you will. That being said, we're about to jump into the review of the figure itself. So the first thing we're going to get into is the accessories and extras that come with the figure. And you'll notice that the first head we have, which is on the figure already, comes standard in the package, is very plain per se, but also very well done. And that is the suit with the closed mouth, or the helmet I should say, with the closed mouth and the wide eyes, which is very, very well done. Very basic, but we're going to bring the figure forward so you can see it. So I'm very, very, very happy with how it looks. I mean, some detail in there. They've got the texturing to make it look like metal, to look like armor, as it should. Plated mouth, and then the white eyes, which you can see here, right? And then you have the second head here, which has the exposed mouth. Very, very well done. Of course, all of them sit in a ball peg joint. Otherwise, pretty much the same as the other head, exception being, as you can tell, the mouth. Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 sets of hands. You have your fisted hands. You have a grapnel style holding hand here with the base holding hand on the other side. 2 kind of open fisted hands right there. And you see almost a invert of the 2, kind of a grapnel style hand here versus a standard hand there. You can almost change these around if you want to. And they pretty much so do that. But the grapnel style hand here actually really is meant for, as you can see, a more closed fist, meant to hold the batarangs, as you'll see. Now I keep these lined up because that's the way they go in box, and if I don't do it that way, I'll forget the order they go in the box. Which is, I guess, I mean, not bad because they fit molded, so, you know. But that being said, you have your batarangs. See if I can, there we go. So nice silver on the edge, some gray in the center, otherwise a black batarang. Both batarangs, you come with 2, both batarangs are the same, right? That dead center. And you have your grapnel gun. Grapnel gun is nice and detailed, got some gray finish on it, or silver finish, to kind of give it that wear and tear from the game. That grapnel blade, the tri-hook right there, I guess is what you'd call it, that's what I'm calling it for this review, is attached, so don't try to pull it off. If you will, you will break the figure, or I shouldn't say you break the figure, but you will break this particular piece. So it is one solid piece, and it's soft plexi plastic to fit very well in the hand, right? So that is the accessories. Now I want you to look at the hands, just as we'll get in with the rest of the suit. So something about this hand is very cool, or any of the hands, you'll see the knuckles, much like the suit in the game, have that orange charge. That tells you the suit is heated up and ready to combat the cold. That worked out very well as he was punching ice, because it would release a heat steam that would melt ice as he was attacking or punching it, and also generally kept his body warm. So that is the accessories. Now we're gonna move the accessories away and we're gonna talk about the figure aesthetic. All right, so figure aesthetic. As far as the overall look of the figure, I think it is masterfully executed. Look at the detail, look at the armor. As far as when you look at the armor, getting it up close, you can see the grains in what would be the metal. You can see the line work as we get close, and the orange in terms of what's supposed to be the tubing for heat. The difference in the glossier finish with the bat symbol versus the matte finish of the rest of the figure. The belt having some nice wrinkle detail, like right here, if you can see it. Some nice wrinkle detail as well as buckle detail here. So, I mean, very, very well done. It is made to feel like it is an armor. You've got the rails and you have the different things. I mean, I have myself being a former athlete who has had injuries. I understand having to wear braces, and the way this is a brace hinge now. There's some things about the aesthetic we're going to get into, but the idea of a brace hinge and kind of how it looks as a whole when it's together, I think looks fantastic. Where I have to fault it is, and this goes into aesthetic, if you look at the bicep, if this is running short on the bicep and this is not here, you'll see that separation right there of the shoulder pad and the bicep, which is, this is supposed to sit in there. Now, we're going to talk about aesthetic versus articulation here in a few, but this is an aesthetic thing. So this is unappealing to see this cut off right here and the shoulder pads right there. It's pretty unappealing in that regard. Not happy with that. And of course, when you get the bend here on the knee, these bars that are attached to this very clearly, that happens quite often, but that's okay. It pops on and off easily, but this floating piece, we'll get that right back in place here. That, which is, you can tell it's a bar system. It's meant to connect. It's meant to look like a hydraulic rail system for the knee to keep the leg strong. Once you bend it, you 100% lose that. You 100% lose that, and that's where I find fault. There went the leg, or not the leg, the foot. All right, and I got the foot back on. My bad, guys. So that being said, as we go back into looking at the aesthetic, there's a lot to like about the figure. So the body overall 112 is covered in cloth underneath the armor. The armor, for the most part, is a soft rubber material, with the exception of the hinges and of course things like the shoulder guards, which are a little harder plastic. That being said, as far as it looks, with the exception of the gap parts I've talked about, I really, really enjoy the look. I think it's actually very well done and very well executed. All right, so for articulation, his head is on a ball joint, so it will look down this much in a standard pose. He will look up fairly well in a standard pose. You want to get him looking at the sky, stars, something's coming down at him, you can definitely do that. In terms of his shoulders, you can get him out fairly high. I mean, even both, there's enough slack left in the material, both shoulders can go very high on a T-pose. Very, very well done there. I mean, you've got your turn, obviously, is blocked by the armor depending on how low he's looking, but otherwise you can get around. You've got plenty of pivot and motion, so shoulder wise, and these are on those T-hinges like you'd see, and if you collect the SHF line, that they're on those T-hinges like that for SHF. As far as the bicep goes, he's got a decent bicep turn, not amazing. He's got a double jointed elbow, but unfortunately, when I say unfortunately, due to the armor, it won't go all the way. Now, I'm not hugely upset by this because of the fact that he's wearing armor, he would be bulkier, limitations of movement would be extreme in a suit like this. So it's okay that, for me, that he's not super flexible, super posable in that regard. So he's got a standard kind of wrist that you would see, same as Mezco. Of course, it is partially their way of meeting a Mezco line with a figure that Mezco does not have. So you have your hinge that can turn and rotate, right? So as far as body articulation there, you're pretty much so stuck. When the armor as it is, you're not going to be able to really move him. So it is what it is. You can turn at the waist very well. I mean, pretty good, I think, right? You have dogs. I have lots of dogs here. That'll be changing here soon. So we have a pose here, so you can get a good split going. Not fantastic, but pretty good even for being in armor. Kick wise, you can get pretty much so up. So pretty happy with that kick. Bending your knee, you do have a double jointed knee, although again it's hindered because of the armor. No problem though. And the ankle's on a ball joint. Now this is where most ball joint ankles are different, because the foot, and it comes off, it's fine, it pops off, it will pop back in. The ball joint is attached to the foot, it is actually a part of the foot, if you can tell. And the ankle is just a shallow ball joint area. I don't know how new or old this line is. I'm not really certain in terms of VCToys where this lies within their making of full figures. So I can't tell you why they made that choice. I can tell you it's not my favorite, but I can tell you you get enough out of it that as far as ankle goes, you kick that far forward, you kick that far back, you got, oh, go right on off there. Yeah, that's the only part that is very soft. It doesn't hold very well, so it doesn't pop around the joint, unfortunately. So you get a little bit, but not a lot of ankle pivot, right? Same across both ankles, both legs. Another thing I didn't talk about aesthetic is you do get a fabric cape. It's very nicely done. I kind of like it, but it's nothing special, nothing to write home about, right? So articulation wise, I think he moves fairly well in terms of a figure that, oh, and by the way, I missed this, he tilts back that far, and this is a tilt that is at the waist here. So I don't know if there's any tilt in there because of the armor, but tilts there. And he tilts back, right? All right, so next we're gonna land some figures next to him and see how they stack up. The first couple we're gonna do is gonna be the Mezco Ascending Knight gray suit standard release Batman. Just so you can see how Mezco kind of stacks up next to him. And we're gonna see the Mezco BVS Batman vs. Superman armored Batman, who eerily has a lot of similar articulation parts as compared to him. So these two next to each other, so you can see this Batman a little shorter but a little broader. As for BVS Batman, just a touch taller, about the same broadness, and articulation is actually eerily similar. So very, very, very interesting, because I think they were released around the same time. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure they were released on the same time, and they happen to have very eerily similar articulation. So I wouldn't be shocked if there was some communication or some research done on each other. Whatever happens, or however that happens to be, either way, they are very, very well done. So those two next to each other. Get some other characters in there, so just so you can see, I want you to see them next to something like, oh, I don't know, because it's the Arkham series, you want a Killer Croc that size to meet. So you have the, oh, got to adjust, a little short compared to him. So then you have the DC Multiverse Build-A-Figure Killer Croc And then just so you have some cold characters next to him, you'll have the Public Enemies. Man, I can't think of his name. Public Enemies. Not Killer Frost. I can't think of his name. I'll probably find it later and put it in the description. And then the DC, based off the classics, so it was in between the multiverse and the classics. I don't remember which one it was, but Victor Freeze, and this was the standard. Yeah, I know he's got the yellowing on his thighs, but there's the Victor Freeze there. It was not the blue and black variant, which I wish I could have found, but there's them. And as you can tell, not bad, although I wish Victor Freeze was about his size, if not a little bigger, because of the suit Freeze wears. I also don't believe the musculature on the arm on that Freeze, but whatever. So that's them next to him. And then just to compare him to a Marvel counterpart, because I like Marvel, I like suits, and I like Iron Man as well. You've got him next to a Marvel Legends classic Iron Man. So there you go, you got them next to each other. And they look pretty good. I wouldn't say they're 100% in scale with each other. Marvel Legends, I think, runs pretty well. I would say, surprisingly, this VCToys figure runs a little bigger than I would expect it to. I guess it makes sense in terms of other 12 scale or 1/12 scale figures for him to be a little bigger because he's in armor. And when you put him next to like Marvel Legends and so forth, some of them he's a little bigger than, some of them he's a little smaller than. So I guess scaling is somewhat of an issue, but otherwise, this figure alone on a shelf is fantastic. All right, so capping up this review, I will say that this is a must-have figure. In my opinion, if you're a huge Batman collector, you're an Arkham fan, he's the kind of figure you definitely want in your collection. And he's not easy to get a hold of. You can't just go on like eBay and so forth and just find him. You might get lucky and find him on there, but it's not this everyday figure because he was a limited release. I think they did 2 runs of him, but they didn't do an extensive amount. I want to say there's 600 to 700 of them floating around somewhere, if not a little less. But that being said, you want to find them if you're looking for them on like Mezco groups and stuff like that, 112 groups, if you're on Facebook and so forth. That being said, he's an amazing figure, well worth the price, and fits in for the most part very well with your lines. I know that VCToys has some other Batman figures that are coming out in here soon that I hope to be very pleased with, at least in the same vein as this figure. That being said, this is Wolfgang with another Dorkfish review. I do hope you've enjoyed this review. I appreciate you guys clicking on. If you haven't yet, please like, share, and subscribe. That being said, I'm gonna shut it down. So you guys have an excellent rest of your day, evening, night, whatever it is. Deuces.